Hi my dear students, I hope you are well. I am recording this to read to you one of my favorite stories, which is The Telltale Heart by Edgar Allan Poe. I actually changed the version, so this is not the original version, this is the one that you can find written in the comments below. I abridged it, which means that I made it shorter and I changed the vocabulary a little bit to accommodate some keywords that the experience tells me that are good for you to learn. And to be honest, I did simplify it a little bit, just a little bit. So I want to consider this a way to get you closer into actually reading the original version. And I think after this you may do it, and I hope you do it and you tell me if you enjoy this story as much as I do. So let's just go ahead. I hope you enjoy it and you don't get too scared. So, The Telltale Heart by Edgar Allan Poe. True, nervous, very nervous, but not mad. The disease had sharpened my senses. My hearing was more acute than ever. It is impossible to say how the idea entered my brain, but it haunted me day and night. I loved the old man. He never insulted me. I had absolutely no desire for his gold. I think it was his eye. He had the eye of a vulture, a pale blue eye, with a film over it. Whenever it fell upon me, my blood ran cold, and so very gradually I decided to take the life of the old man, and thus get rid of that eye forever. You may think I am insane, but you should have seen how wisely I acted, with what caution. I was never kinder to the old man than during the week before I killed him. And every night, about midnight, I went to his room, and oh, it was so gently and so slowly that I opened the door. When I had made an opening sufficient for my head to enter, I put in a dark lantern, all closed, so that no light escaped. I moved it slowly, so that I might not wake up the man. It took me an hour to place my whole head within the minuscule opening, so far that I could see him sleeping on his bed. And then, when my head was well in the room, I opened the lantern cautiously, oh so carefully. I undid it just so much that a single thin ray of light fell upon the vulture eye. And this I did for 7 long nights. Every night, just at midnight, but every night, the eye was closed. And so it was impossible to do the work. Every morning, I went to see him and lovingly asked him how he had passed the night. So he never suspected. On the 8th night, I was much more cautious than on the previous nights. I felt powerful. I could not contain my feelings of triumph. I laughed a little at the idea, just a little chuckle, and maybe he heard me, as he suddenly moved on the bed. Now you may think that I abandoned my plan, but no. His room was completely dark, and so I knew that he could not see me. I was about to open the lantern when my thumb slipped. The lantern made a screeching noise, and the old man sprang up in the bed, crying out, "Who's there?" I kept silent. For an hour I did not move a muscle. In the meantime, he was sitting up, listening. I heard a slight groan, and then I knew it was the groan of mortal terror. I knew what the old man felt. I felt bad for him, although I was silently happy. He was terrified, since he perceived the presence in the room. When I had waited a long time, very patiently, I decided to open a little crevice in the lantern. So I opened it, until a single thin ray fell upon the vulture eye. It was open, and I grew furious as I looked at it. It was blue with a hideous veil over it, but I could see nothing else of the old man's face or person, because I had directed the ray, as if by instinct, precisely upon the damned eye. As I told you, my senses were better than ever, and to my ears came a sound. I knew that sound well, too. It was the beating of the old man's heart. It increased my fury. The beat grew quicker and quicker and louder and louder. The old man's terror was extreme, and I knew anxiety filled me. The sound could be heard by a neighbor. The old man's scent had arrived. I threw open the lantern and jumped into the room. He screamed only once. In an instant, I dragged him to the floor and pulled the heavy bed over him. I then smiled. The heartbeat continued with a muffled sound. This, however, did not stop me. The old man was dead. I removed the bed and examined the body. I placed my hand on his heart. There was no pulsation. Yes, he was dead. His eye could trouble me no more. If you think I was crazy, you will not think so after I describe the wise precautions I took for the concealment of the body. First of all, I dismembered the corpse. I cut off the head and the arms and the legs. I then took up all the stained wooden boards from the floor and replaced them with new ones. It was 4 o'clock when I finished. I had nothing to fear. The doorbell rang. I went down to open. 3 men entered. They were officers of the police. A neighbor heard something during the night. The police was called by him, and the officers were sent to investigate. I smiled. I welcomed the gentleman. The sound, I said, was me, screaming because of a bad dream. The old man, I mentioned, was not in the country. I took my visitors all over the house. I showed them the old man's treasures, all of them secure, and then I brought chairs into the room and offered the policeman to rest. I placed my own chair upon the place where the corpse of the victim rested. The officers were satisfied. They sat while we chatted of familiar things. After a while, I felt getting pale and wished they left. My head was in pain. I felt a ringing in my ears. The ringing became more distinct. I talked more freely to get rid of the feeling. I discovered that the noise was not inside my ears. I was pale, but I talked more fluently. The sound increased. It was a dull sound. The officers did not hear it. I talked more quickly, but the noise increased. I got up and talked with violent gesticulations, but the noise increased. Why would they not leave? The men continued chatting pleasantly and smiled. Was it possible that they did not hear it? They were making fun of my horror. I could not take those hypocritical smiles anymore. I felt that I needed to scream. "Villains!" I shouted. "I admit it! He's down here! The sound is the beating of his hideous heart." The end. Well, that was the end. I really hope that you enjoyed it, that it helped you to see how fun it is to actually read something and how words contain a lot of feelings and emotions, and that they are describing something amazing that is a new world. That is a fantastic thing about reading something or reading a story, and reading a story that actually contains a lot of interesting words that describe different feelings and different environments, and that create a new world that you can enjoy just there by reading or listening. So I really hope you enjoyed. If you want to hear more stories told by me, please just comment here what you liked, what you didn't like, and what kind of stories you would like for me to read, and share with your friends if you want to distract them. And that's it. Well, thank you for watching. Have a good day. Bye. See you next time.